The story opens in the heart of a quiet frontier town where the rhythm of daily life is slow but deliberate. Dust rises from the wooden boardwalks as townsfolk go about their chores, and the occasional clop of horse hooves echoes through the main street. Small shops line the town's center: general stores, a blacksmith, a saloon that opens only in the evening, and each establishment carries the faint scent of life hardened by both labor and the untamed land surrounding them. At the center of this orderly, contained world stands the sheriff's house, modest but well kept, a symbol of law and stability in a place where chaos often lingers just beyond the horizon. Inside the house, the sheriff's daughter moves quietly through the morning routine. Her life has been carefully shaped by her father's guidance, one of discipline tempered with warmth. She is curious and spirited, with an observant nature that allows her to notice details others might miss: the way the sunlight glints off a passing rider's boots, the distant bark of a dog warning of travelers, the flicker of unease in the eyes of those who speak in whispers about the kidnamas, outlaws lurking outside town. Despite her sheltered upbringing, there is a longing in her, a desire to see the world beyond her father's watchful eye, to experience the untamed beauty of the land and the thrill of stories that her father forbids her to hear in detail. The narrative contrasts her innocence and careful life with the danger that shadows the town. Beyond the wooden fences and dirt roads, the frontier is wild and unpredictable, where outlaws strike with cunning and swiftness, leaving townsfolk wary and suspicious. Rumors travel faster than the riders who bring news from neighboring towns, tales of a daring outlaw who has skirted capture time and again. His reputation precedes him, a man of skill, audacity, and mystery, feared by many, respected by a few. To the daughter, these stories stir something unfamiliar, a mixture of fear and fascination, a sense that the world is larger, wilder, and more complex than her father's structured life suggests. The sheriff himself is a man of unwavering principle, his life dedicated to maintaining order and protecting the town from chaos. His devotion to the law is matched only by his devotion to his daughter, whom he raises with a combination of strict guidance and tender care. He has taught her the importance of obedience, the need to recognize danger, and the value of honor. But he has also sheltered her from the harsh realities of the frontier. This duality in her upbringing creates a tension within her. She respects her father deeply, yet feels the pull of curiosity and independence that grows stronger with each passing day. The town itself acts almost as a character, its narrow streets, weathered buildings, and restless townsfolk creating a sense of intimacy and claustrophobia simultaneously. Life here is orderly, yet under the surface lies a current of unease, an acknowledgement that the law and the wild are constantly in tension. In this environment, every glance toward the horizon, every sound in the distance, carries weight. It is a world where a single encounter can alter the course of a life, where choices are measured not just by desire but by consequence. By the end of Part 1, readers have a clear understanding of the sheriff's daughter's sheltered yet inquisitive nature, the stark contrast between her orderly life and the chaos of the outlaw world, and the moral and emotional framework that will guide her decisions. The stage is set for the collision of law and rebellion, of innocence and danger, where a single fateful encounter may challenge everything she has been taught about loyalty, trust, and the boundaries of the world she knows beyond the neat streets and watchful eyes of the small town. The frontier stretches wide and untamed. Rolling hills, dense forests, and winding rivers hide both beauty and danger. It is in this vast wilderness that the story introduces its second central figure, the outlaw. Unlike the townspeople who cling to routine and rules, he thrives in unpredictability. He is a man shaped by circumstance as much as choice, his reputation both feared and admired across the region. Stories of his exploits travel faster than any writer could, painting him as a shadowy figure who slips through the grasp of lawmen with uncanny skill. The outlaw is not a mindless criminal. From the outset, The narrative makes clear that he operates by a personal code. He steals not out of cruelty but out of necessity, survival, or occasionally to right small wrongs in a lawless land. Villagers in remote settlements may fear his presence, but those who have glimpsed his mercy speak in hushed tones about his unusual honor. He never harms women or children, he often leaves more than he takes, and he shows loyalty to those who earn it. Through these contradictions, the character gains depth, a man defined by freedom but constrained by his conscience, feared yet misunderstood. Life on the run is hard, and the story delves into the daily realities of this existence. Nights are spent in shadowed hideouts, near streams or under thick trees, listening to the rustle of wildlife and the distant howl of coyotes. Days are a careful balance between movement and caution, scanning the horizon for posses or rival gangs. Every encounter carries risk, and the outlaw has learned to read subtle signs in people and nature alike, an ability that has saved him more than once. These survival skills are not only practical but symbolic, illustrating his independence and adaptability. They contrast sharply with the town's structured safety, emphasizing how different his life is from the one the sheriff's daughter knows. The story also humanizes the outlaw by revealing glimpses of his past. Perhaps he once had a family or a chance at a normal life, only to lose it to betrayal, tragedy, or circumstance. These elements make him sympathetic, showing that his outlaw persona is a shield against a world that has been cruel to him. Despite his hardened exterior, he is capable of introspection and even longing, qualities that will later make him vulnerable to the sheriff as daughter. These layers hint at the possibility that beneath the veneer of fearsome reputation lies a man capable of love and trust, someone whose morality exists in shades of gray rather than stark black and white. His notoriety has practical consequences. The townsfolk whisper his name in fear, and bounty hunters or rival outlaws may appear at any moment. Yet his legend also grants him a degree of control. He is respected in certain circles, his movements studied by those who fear being outwitted. The outlaw's presence in the narrative raises stakes for both him and the town. Every choice has weight. Every encounter could lead to confrontation or revelation. It is within this tense landscape that the story builds anticipation for the eventual meeting between the two protagonists, highlighting the contrast between the structured, protected life of the sheriff's daughter and the unpredictable, precarious existence of the outlaw. By the end of Part 2, readers understand the outlaw's complexity. He is cunning yet principled, dangerous yet capable of humanity, feared by many but not beyond redemption. His reputation sets the stage for intrigue and conflict, creating a natural tension that draws the sheriff's daughter and the audience toward him. The groundwork is laid for their inevitable crossing of paths, and the story hints that despite their contrasting worlds, a spark may be waiting to ignite. The story shifts focus to the first fateful meeting between the sheriff's daughter and the outlaw, a moment that begins to bridge the vast divide between their two worlds. It occurs near the river, a neutral territory that exists between the orderly town and the wild frontier. The river is more than just a setting. It symbolizes freedom, change, and hidden depths, mirroring the unexpected stirrings in both characters' hearts. Its gentle currents and reflective surface provide a quiet, almost intimate backdrop for a meeting that will forever alter their lives. The daughter ventures toward the river under the pretense of collecting water or simply seeking a quiet moment away from the watchful eyes of the town. Her curiosity has been piqued by the stories of outlaws and by her own growing desire to understand the world beyond the confines of her father as strict rules. She moves with caution, every sound and shadow sharpening her senses. It is in this state of alert curiosity that she encounters the outlaw, who is equally vigilant, hiding along the riverbank after narrowly evading a posse. Their first sight of each other is sudden and tense. Neither expects company, and both are immediately aware of the potential danger the other represents. Their initial interaction is marked by wariness and silent assessment. The daughter, though startled, does not flee outright. There is an underlying intrigue, a recognition that this man is unlike anyone she has known. The outlaw, in turn, gauges her carefully, noting her poise, intelligence, and the spark of defiance in her eyes, qualities that suggest she will not be easily frightened or deceived. Their dialogue, if it occurs, is cautious and measured, each word weighed for meaning. It is in these early exchanges that a subtle chemistry begins to form: curiosity, tension, and the faintest hint of mutual understanding. Both are aware of the social and physical dangers their connection entails, yet an invisible thread begins to draw them closer. The encounter also allows readers to see how their respective worlds collide. The daughter's sheltered upbringing has not prepared her for the unpredictability of the outlaw, and she is forced to confront her preconceived notions about danger, morality, and freedom. Likewise, the outlaw is reminded that not all humans in this world are motivated by greed, fear, or cruelty. Here is someone capable of empathy, courage, and moral judgment, qualities he may have thought extinct in the townsfolk. This collision of perspectives plants the seeds of change in both characters, subtly challenging their assumptions and opening them to new possibilities. Despite the tension, there is an unspoken acknowledgement of mutual respect. The daughter senses the outlaw's skill and caution, admiring his resourcefulness even as she fears the consequences of being near him. The outlaw, for his part, recognizes her intelligence, bravery, and innate sense of morality, a combination that sets her apart from others who might encounter him. The narrative emphasizes these internal reflections, allowing the reader to understand that the encounter is about more than mere survival or danger. It is a meeting of minds and hearts, fragile yet significant. The scene concludes without resolution, leaving both characters and the audience on edge. Neither fully trusts the other, yet neither can ignore the connection that has been sparked. The river, serene yet ever-moving, mirrors this unresolved tension, suggesting that while their worlds are separate, currents exist that may eventually draw them together. The encounter plants the first seeds of attraction and intrigue, setting the stage for deeper interaction, moral dilemmas, and emotional growth in the chapters to come. By the end of this part, readers feel the anticipation of a relationship that defies boundaries and promises both danger and transformation. As the story unfolds, the quiet rhythm of the town begins to fracture under the looming presence of the outlaw. Though the sheriff's daughter has only encountered him once, rumors of his activities ripple through the town like wind through dry grass, exaggerated tales of daring escapes, nighttime robberies, and near captures. Townspeople speak in hushed voices, casting wary glances at strangers or even familiar faces for fear that the outlaw could appear where least expected. The once peaceful streets now carry an undercurrent of tension, and the sheriff, acutely aware of the risk, grows increasingly vigilant. His protective instincts, both for the town and for his daughter, intensify, creating a palpable anxiety that affects every decision he makes. The sheriff calls meetings with trusted townsfolk, discussing patrols, plans for vigilance, and strategies to prevent the outlaw from striking again. These scenes reveal his sense of duty and the weight of responsibility he bears as both lawman and father. At the same time, they highlight the broader social dynamics of a small town on edge. Neighbors whisper suspicions, travelers are questioned rigorously, and even ordinary errands carry a hint of danger. This tense atmosphere contrasts sharply with the earlier serenity of Part 1, emphasizing how fragile life is on the frontier and how quickly fear can alter the perception of safety. Amid this mounting tension, the sheriff's daughter begins to notice the dissonance between the town's fear of the outlaw and what she sensed during their encounter. In her mind, he is not the villain the rumors describe. She saw glimpses of intelligence, restraint, and perhaps even humanity. This growing curiosity and empathy mark a turning point in her character development. She begins to question the black and white morality her father has instilled in her, realizing that the world beyond the town is not simply divided into good and evil. This internal conflict is intensified as she hears varying accounts of the outlaw from townsfolk, none of which match the impression he left on her. The stage is set for the moral and emotional dilemmas that will dominate her choices in the coming chapters. Meanwhile, the outlaw is not oblivious to the growing threat posed by the sheriff and his posse. He knows the town is preparing to capture him and that his movements are being tracked. This awareness adds layers of tension to his existence. Every step must be calculated, every hiding spot chosen with care. Yet, despite this danger, he cannot erase the memory of the sheriff's daughter from his mind. Her presence, even brief and fleeting, has unsettled the carefully constructed walls he maintains around his heart. For the first time in a long while, he contemplates risks beyond mere survival risks that involve emotions, trust, and a connection that could prove more dangerous than any posse. The narrative in this part alternates between the perspectives of the town, the sheriff, and the outlaw, emphasizing the interplay of fear, duty, and desire. Readers experience the tension from multiple angles: the town's anxiety, the daughter's internal conflict, and the outlaw's cautious calculations. The setting of the frontier amplifies these stakes. The rivers, forests, and open plains are not merely backdrops, but obstacles and tools that influence the characters' strategies and movements. The natural environment mirrors the psychological tension: a calm river concealing hidden currents, a forest providing both shelter and peril. By the end of Part 4, the stage is fully set for imminent encounters and escalating stakes. The town's threat is real and immediate, the sheriff's vigilance uncompromising, and the daughter's curiosity pushing her toward danger she cannot yet fully understand. Meanwhile, the outlaw's growing awareness of her presence adds a layer of emotional tension to his strategic calculations. The narrative has successfully deepened the characters' internal and external conflicts, making the eventual confrontation not only inevitable but emotionally charged, with consequences that will ripple through each of their lives. The story intensifies as the sheriff's daughter finds herself in a situation that forces her into direct interaction with the outlaw once again. The river, which has already served as a symbolic boundary between her orderly world and the unpredictable frontier, becomes the stage for danger, trust, and the first real test of their relationship. Perhaps she is gathering water, exploring the woods, or secretly venturing to a secluded spot away from the town's scrutiny. Whatever her reason, the encounter is no longer accidental. It becomes a moment that challenges both characters physically and emotionally. The danger emerges suddenly, a natural obstacle or external threat that neither the daughter nor the outlaw can easily navigate alone. It might be a rising river current, a landslide along the bank, a confrontation with wild animals, or even an ambush by rival outlaws or bounty hunters. The specifics are less important than the way the threat forces them into immediate cooperation. The daughter, initially startled and fearful, is compelled to rely on the outlaw's skills, while he must adapt quickly to ensure both of their survivals. This scenario establishes the first real moment of teamwork between them, breaking down the barriers of distrust and forcing them to see each other as more than their labels: daughter of a lawman, dangerous outlaw. Through their cooperative struggle, the narrative highlights the contrasting qualities that make them compatible in unexpected ways. The daughter's intelligence, courage, and quick thinking balance the outlaw's experience, resourcefulness, and physical prowess. She notices subtle details: a branch that could stabilize the riverbank, a pattern in the animal's movements, or a safer path through the woods that help him navigate the danger. Conversely, his knowledge of the land, skill with his weapons, and calm under pressure protect them both. In this shared trial, respect begins to form, laying the emotional groundwork for trust. They witness each other's strengths and vulnerabilities in a way that mere words or casual encounters could never reveal. Emotionally, the encounter begins to deepen the bond between them. The daughter sees glimpses of humanity behind the outlaw's hardened exterior, moments of compassion, quick decision-making to save life, and flashes of humor even in danger. For the outlaw, her bravery, intelligence, and composure under stress challenge his assumptions about the townspeople and, more importantly, the world he thought he had no place in. He is reminded that connection and empathy still exist, even in the harshest of landscapes. This first trial together creates an unspoken sense of loyalty, a fragile alliance that will be tested in the coming chapters as their worlds continue to collide. The physical setting plays a crucial role in heightening tension and atmosphere. The river may swell unexpectedly, the forest loom with shadows, or the night descend rapidly, creating both beauty and peril. Nature itself becomes a silent character, pushing them together while simultaneously testing their limits. The narrative uses vivid sensory details, rushing water, snapping branches, the metallic tang of fear to immerse the reader in the immediacy of the danger, making the characters' reactions feel visceral and authentic. By the end of Part 5, the danger has passed, but its emotional and narrative impact lingers. They have survived the trial together, yet both are acutely aware of the risks inherent in their growing connection. The encounter has shifted their relationship. Distrust and curiosity now mingle with admiration, intrigue, and a hint of something more intimate. For the sheriff's daughter, the outlaw is no longer a mere figure of rumor and fear, but a complex, compelling human being. For the outlaw, the daughter represents a bridge to a world he has long been excluded from, offering a glimpse of hope and trust he has not allowed himself in years. This pivotal moment establishes a foundation for future emotional developments and sets the stage for the moral dilemmas and escalating stakes that will dominate the next chapters. After surviving the dangerous encounter at the river, the sheriff's daughter and the outlaw find themselves connected in ways that go beyond immediate survival. The shared experience has cracked the protective barriers each has maintained, allowing glimpses of vulnerability to surface. For the first time, they begin to share pieces of themselves that reveal their fears, desires, and hidden truth secrets that define who they are, both individually and morally. This chapter marks the emotional deepening of their relationship, showing that trust is slowly taking root in even the most unlikely of soil. The outlaw, accustomed to relying solely on himself and wary of attachment, begins to reveal the story behind his outlaw life. Perhaps he shares how betrayal, loss, or desperation led him down a path he never wanted but could not avoid. His words are careful, chosen with the precision of someone who knows the danger of exposing weakness. Through these confessions, the reader sees the humanity that lies beneath his feared reputation. A man shaped by circumstance, forced into a life of survival, yet not inherently cruel or unkind. He admits his regrets and acknowledges the consequences of his actions, hinting at a longing for redemption and a desire to be understood rather than judged solely on rumors or past deeds. The sheriff's daughter, in turn, begins to reveal her own vulnerabilities. She talks about the pressures of living under her father's watchful eyes, the weight of expectations, and the loneliness of a sheltered life. She admits her curiosity about the world beyond the town, her fascination with the unknown, and her growing doubts about the rigid moral boundaries she has been taught. This honesty is both freeing and frightening for her, as it exposes her to potential danger, emotionally and physically, but also begins to form an unspoken bond with the outlaw. He listens, not with judgment, but with recognition, understanding the constraints of her world even as he lives beyond them. Their conversation is punctuated by silence, glances, and small gestures, emphasizing the subtleties of trust. A shared smile, a hand held briefly for balance, or the way they instinctively move to protect one another conveys intimacy without words. The narrative focuses on these quiet human moments, showing that vulnerability is not only verbal but also emotional and physical. It is in these moments that the foundation of romantic tension takes hold, tempered by caution and respect. The setting amplifies the emotional intensity. Perhaps they sit together along the river bank as the water flows gently, symbolizing the ongoing current of life and change. Or they may find shelter under a grove of trees, where shadows create a sense of seclusion and safety from the prying eyes of the world. Nature mirrors their state of mind, turbulent yet beautiful, unpredictable yet offering solace. The physical closeness forced by circumstance allows them to observe each other's subtle reactions, flinches, sighs, hesitant smiles revealing more than words could. By the end of this chapter, both characters have been irrevocably changed by the encounter. The sheriff's daughter begins to see the outlaw not as a threat, but as a man of depth and emotion, someone capable of loyalty, courage, and care. The outlaw, for his part, is touched by her empathy, bravery, and curiosity, realizing that connections with others are possible even in a world that has taught him mistrust. Their secrets and vulnerabilities create an emotional intimacy that will serve as the foundation for the conflicts, choices, and dramatic tension to come. This chapter is crucial because it moves the narrative from physical danger to emotional stakes. While survival earlier demanded cooperation, it is now trust, honesty, and empathy that begin to bind them. By revealing their inner selves, they have crossed a threshold. Their hearts are speaking, and the seeds of love, tentative, cautious, yet undeniable, are sown. The story now pivots toward the external pressures that will test this fragile bond, particularly the sheriff's growing awareness of their connection and the moral dilemmas it will provoke. The tension in the story escalates as the sheriff, ever vigilant and protective of both his town and his daughter, begins to suspect that something unusual is afoot. Rumors, subtle observations, and a growing sense of unease lead him to investigate, though he may not yet know the full truth. The sheriff's discovery is not sudden. It is gradual, a culmination of small, seemingly innocuous clues. Unexplained absences, glimpses of a figure near the river, whispered exchanges he cannot fully hear. Each piece of evidence builds his suspicion and anxiety, highlighting the father's dual role as lawman and parent and his deep fear that his daughter could be drawn into danger. From the sheriff's perspective, the outlaw represents both a tangible threat to the town and a moral test for his family. He has spent years establishing law and order in a fragile environment, and now the presence of someone who operates entirely outside those rules challenges the very foundation of his authority. The discovery of his daughter as connection to the outlaw forces him into a conflict of duty and emotion. His love for his daughter conflicts with his obligation to uphold the law. He feels torn between protecting her from immediate danger and respecting her agency, a tension that mirrors the broader conflict between personal loyalty and societal expectation. The sheriff's investigation might take various forms. Perhaps he follows his daughter discreetly one afternoon, noticing her ventures toward the river or the woods. Maybe he overhears fragments of conversation between townsfolk that hint at a growing relationship. Alternatively, he might confront the outlaw indirectly, only to sense a cautious yet undeniable connection between the two. Whatever the method, the discovery is deeply unsettling. A reminder that the frontier as moral boundaries are never absolute and that the people he loves are capable of making choices he cannot control. For the daughter, the sheriff's discovery brings fear, guilt, and anxiety. She has already crossed boundaries of curiosity and trust, and now the possibility of disappointing her father looms large. Yet she also understands that her feelings for the outlaw are genuine, complex, and potentially transformative. The narrative explores her internal conflict in depth, her desire to obey and honor her father, her yearning for independence and understanding, and the emotional bond that has begun to form with someone considered dangerous and morally ambiguous. This tension between duty and desire heightens the stakes, both emotionally and narratively, as she must navigate the growing scrutiny of her father while maintaining the fragile trust she has established with the outlaw. The outlaw, aware that the sheriff's attention may be drawn to their interactions, must also respond strategically. He understands that the discovery, if fully realized, could endanger both him and the daughter. At the same time, he recognizes the complexity of the situation. The sheriff is not a simple antagonist, but a man motivated by love, duty, and moral clarity. This realization challenges the outlaw's usual black and white view of the world, forcing him to consider subtlety, negotiation, and restraint. He begins to weigh the risks of remaining near the daughter against the emotional bond that has begun to form, introducing a new layer of tension and suspense. This part of the story underscores the broader thematic conflict, the collision between law and freedom, authority and individuality, and fear and trust. It emphasizes that danger is not only external wild animals, the lawless frontier, or rival outlaws, but also interpersonal and emotional. By focusing on the sheriff's discovery, the narrative deepens the stakes, highlighting the moral and relational complexity of the story. The audience sees that the eventual confrontation between the daughter's desires, the outlaw's choices, and the sheriff's principles is inevitable, and the tension created here will carry forward into the pivotal moments that follow. By the end, the reader feels a palpable sense of impending conflict. The sheriff is aware, alert, and ready to act. The daughter is caught between loyalty and love. The outlaw must navigate both survival and the emerging emotional stakes. This sets the stage for the next crucial moment, the intimate and transformative encounter by the river, where hearts will speak and the characters' relationships will be tested like never before. Part 8 is the emotional and narrative heart of the story, the night where the sheriff's daughter and the outlaw meet alone by the river, allowing their hearts to speak and their connection to crystallize. The river, which has been a recurring setting for danger, curiosity, and first encounters, now transforms into a place of intimacy and emotional vulnerability. Its gentle currents and reflective surface mirror the turbulence of their feelings, while the secluded location provides a temporary sanctuary from the pressures of the town, the sheriff, and the world beyond. The scene begins as twilight descends, casting the forest and riverbank in dusky purples and silvers. The air is crisp, carrying the subtle sense of earth, water, and foliage. Nature itself seems to hold its breath, creating an atmosphere charged with anticipation. The sheriff's daughter arrives first, or perhaps meets the outlaw at a prearranged spot, each aware of the risks, yet compelled by the pull of their shared experiences. There is a mixture of fear, excitement, and hesitancy in their approach, acknowledging the danger but also recognizing the importance of this encounter for their hearts and minds. In their conversation, they move beyond the superficial or cautious exchanges of previous encounters. Words are spoken honestly, emotions are confessed, and long-held feelings of curiosity, admiration, and attraction are finally voiced. The daughter may express her awe at his courage and resourcefulness, her frustration with the limitations imposed by her sheltered life, or her longing to see the world as it truly is. The outlaw may reveal the depth of his regrets, the burden of his choices, and the longing for connection he has avoided for years. This dialogue is punctuated by pauses, glances, and gestures, small touches, a reassuring hand on the shoulder, or shared laughter that convey the intimacy that words alone cannot capture. Emotionally, the night represents a turning point. Both characters acknowledge the undeniable pull between them and the complexity of their situation. They are from worlds that are supposed to be incompatible, the law and the lawless, the protected and the hunted, but in this moment, those boundaries blur. They see each other not as labels, daughter, outlaw, but as humans capable of love, empathy, and understanding. Their vulnerability creates a shared space of trust where fears, desires, and hopes can be expressed without judgment. The night by the river becomes a symbolic liminal space, a threshold between their past lives and the possibilities of what they could become together. Tension remains, however, as reality lurks beyond the riverbank. The sheriff's looming presence, the town's fears, and the dangers of the outlaw's life are never far from their minds. This heightens the intensity of the encounter, making their confessions and emotions feel urgent and precious. Every word carries weight. Every glance is charged with meaning. The narrative emphasizes the risk and reward of emotional honesty, showing that connection in a dangerous world requires courage not just of the body but of the heart. By the end of this chapter, their bond has deepened profoundly. Trust has been established, hearts have been laid bare, and the possibility of love has been acknowledged, however tentatively. The river serves as both witness and metaphor. Its continuous flow reflects the unstoppable progression of their feelings, and its mirrored surface suggests the depth and complexity of the emotions they are beginning to explore. This night is pivotal because it transforms curiosity and attraction into something tangible and emotionally binding, setting the stage for the external conflicts and moral dilemmas that will come in the following chapters. The narrative closes this part with a sense of intimacy, hope, and tension, a quiet moment that is both a reprieve from danger and a promise that the choices they make from here on will have profound consequences. The night by the river marks the point where their hearts truly begin to speak, and the story moves toward the inevitable confrontations and resolutions that will test the strength of that connection. The story reaches its climax in Part 9, where the pressures of duty, love, and survival collide, forcing the characters to make choices that will define their futures. The tension established over the previous chapters between the sheriff, his daughter, and the outlaw boils over in a dramatic confrontation, testing the bonds of trust and the strength of emotions forged along the river. This chapter blends physical danger with moral and emotional stakes, creating a multifaceted climax that challenges each character in profound ways. The confrontation begins with the sheriff closing in on the outlaw, driven by his sense of duty and his desire to protect his daughter. Perhaps he has tracked the outlaw to the river or another secluded location where the two have met in secret. The sheriff's arrival introduces immediate tension. He represents the law, authority, and the moral order of the town, while the outlaw embodies freedom, rebellion, and the risks the daughter has been drawn to. Their presence together forces the daughter into the impossible position of mediating between her father's duty and her heart's desires. The setting, likely near the river or in a familiar forested area, intensifies the stakes. The natural environment mirrors the turbulence of emotions, with the river's current symbolizing both danger and change. The daughter's choice is central to this chapter. She must confront the reality of her feelings for the outlaw and the consequences of defying her father. Her internal struggle is vividly portrayed. Loyalty to her father versus the pull of newfound love, obedience versus independence, fear versus courage. She may speak openly, pleading with her father to see the outlaw for who he truly is, revealing the honesty and vulnerability she has shared with him. These moments of moral clarity and emotional courage highlight her growth from a sheltered, curious girl into a young woman capable of making difficult decisions, even in the face of potential danger. For the outlaw, this confrontation is equally transformative. He must navigate the immediate threat of capture while also grappling with the emotional risks of their relationship. This is not simply a physical conflict. It is a test of character, patience, and restraint. He may consider surrendering to protect the daughter, escaping to preserve freedom, or finding a clever compromise that preserves both their safety and the bond they have formed. His actions in this moment reveal the depth of his character. A man who has lived by survival and cunning now confronts choices driven by love, loyalty, and morality. The sheriff, too, is tested. His moral code clashes with his paternal instincts, and the scene forces him to reconcile his rigid sense of right and wrong with the nuanced reality of human behavior. He observes the outlaw not merely as a criminal, but as a man capable of compassion, bravery, and genuine emotion. This revelation complicates his approach, creating a tension between justice and empathy. The reader sees the sheriff's inner conflict play out in every glance, every command, and every decision he makes, adding layers of complexity to the climactic moment. The confrontation reaches its emotional and narrative peak when choices are made. Perhaps the daughter steps forward to protect the outlaw, asserting her agency. Perhaps the outlaw risks capture to remain near her. Or perhaps all three must navigate a delicate compromise. Whatever the resolution, this moment crystallizes the stakes established throughout the story. Love is dangerous. Loyalty is complex, and the boundaries between right and wrong are rarely absolute. The river, the forest, or the open plains frame the scene, emphasizing that life, like the natural world, flows with uncertainty and that courage is required to navigate it. By the end of, the immediate confrontation resolves, but consequences ripple outward. The characters have faced the most intense tests of loyalty, love, and moral judgment. The daughter has asserted her independence. The outlaw has revealed his capacity for connection and courage beyond survival. And the sheriff has begun to see the world in shades of gray rather than strict black and white. The stage is set for the story's resolution, where the choices made in the heat of conflict will shape the emotional and narrative closure. Brings the story to its emotional and narrative conclusion, resolving the tensions, choices, and conflicts that have been building from the first encounter by the river. The resolution examines the consequences of the characters' actions, the evolution of their relationships, and the moral balance between love, duty, and personal freedom. Whether the ending leans toward romantic fulfillment, bittersweet separation, or a daring compromise, it serves to complete the arcs of the sheriff, his daughter, and the outlaw while leaving a lasting impression on the reader. The aftermath of the confrontation forces each character to reckon with their choices. The sheriff, whose rigid sense of duty has been tested repeatedly, now faces a decision that balances his role as protector, enforcer of the law, and father. The narrative may depict him with a quiet, reflective intensity, considering the outlaw not merely as a criminal, but as a man who has proven honor, bravery, and even loyalty. The sheriff's evolution culminates in a moment of moral clarity. He must decide whether to prioritize law over empathy, vengeance over understanding, or whether he can recognize the humanity that transcends the label society has imposed. This choice humanizes him and allows for emotional reconciliation with both his daughter and the outlaw. For the sheriff's daughter, the resolution is the culmination of her growth from a sheltered, curious young woman to someone capable of making bold, self-determined choices. She must reconcile her love or deep attachment to the outlaw with the realities of life in the town and the expectations of her father. Her courage and honesty demonstrated in Part 9 during the confrontation now come to fruition. If she chooses love, it may involve risk, defiance, or even a dramatic departure from her past life. If she chooses to prioritize safety or family loyalty, it may be a bittersweet decision that reflects maturity and understanding. In either case, her arc resolves with clarity, showing that personal agency and emotional growth are central to the story's thematic heart. The outlaw's resolution hinges on both survival and emotional fulfillment. He has already demonstrated that he is capable of connection and moral choice beyond the instincts of a fugitive life. In this final part, he must confront the consequences of his actions, the reality of the law, and the desires of his heart. If he chooses love, It may require risking freedom, negotiating with the sheriff, or planning a daring escape that preserves both the relationship and their lives. If circumstances force a separation, the narrative ensures his decisions are marked by integrity and care, leaving readers with a sense of bittersweet honor and emotional resonance. His character arc completes a full circle, from a man defined by survival and fear to one capable of trust, love, and moral reflection. The setting plays an important role in the resolution. The river, which has been a recurring symbol throughout the story, serves as a final backdrop for decisions and emotional clarity. It embodies continuity and change, suggesting that life flows forward even after critical choices are made. Whether the characters depart under moonlight, part ways with the dawn, or walk together into an uncertain future, the natural environment mirrors the emotional currents, reinforcing the story's central themes of risk, connection, and the courage to act on one's heart. By the end of, the story resolves the central conflicts while leaving room for reflection. Love may triumph in a daring escape or tender union, demonstrating hope and the power of connection across social and moral boundaries. Alternatively, sacrifice may underscore the realities of duty and societal expectation, leaving an emotional imprint that is poignant yet satisfying. Regardless of the specific outcome, each character emerges transformed. The daughter gains agency, the outlaw gains emotional depth, and the sheriff gains understanding. Their arcs intersect and resolve, leaving readers with a sense of closure and a lingering resonance of the choices, risks, and passions that define human connection. The resolution cements the story's enduring message. Love, trust, and moral courage often exist in tension with societal norms and personal duty, but they are worth pursuing even when the cost is high. The river remains, as it always has, a witness to the bonds formed, the risks taken, and the hearts that spoke, forever marking the night that changed everything.